The nave is wider than that of any other cathedral in France. For Chartres, it is specifically 52 feet or 60 meters and is in the purest 13th century ogival style. There are immense flying buttresses that heighten the verticality of the building, and the building is created with the golden ratio, which are proportions to match idealism of heaven. The facade is divided into three, which is an example of the golden ratio. The drapery on figures on the wall are very vertical, and windows are placed like floating planes of light. There are ribbed vaults and Romanesque arches that heighten linearity, and the north transept protrudes outward, and the style is French Gothic.
Now talking about content and interpretation. The Chartres Cathedral was the supposed cult of the Virgin Mary. It was also used to educate the public. The cathedral itself was a mixture of both Romanesque and Gothic styles. With the use of stained glass, the spiritual intensity was heightened by the fact that no direct light entered the building itself. The Chartres Cathedral was an example of the ideal French Gothic architecture, and in France it was a symbol of both artistic and religious supremacy.
Let's move on to context. What made Chartres Cathedral famous and wealthy was Virgin Mary's tunic that survived the fire in 1194 in the town of Chartres. This Virgin Mary's tunic became the reason why Chartres Cathedral was a pilgrimage site. Lots of people would come from faraway lands and give offerings to this tunic. The architect of Chartres, whose name is unknown, built the church on the foundations of what was left of the Romanesque church that had been there beforehand. By this time, architecture in the West had changed and moved from a Romanesque style to a Gothic style. This church is one of the most preeminent examples and probably the most unified example of Gothic style in France. God created the world according to measure, and the church could mirror the measure and the numbers with which God had created the universe. And so by being in that space created with that measure, the golden ratio, we would feel closer to God, and we would feel an approximation of the divine realm. What is sometimes referred to as Chartres 1, the westwork, the part that survived the fire of 1194, was built earlier, feels so much more massive than the other parts of the work. The architect is not yet shedding the fears that went along with the Romanesque style. The facade is divided into threes in two directions. There is a reference to the Trinity, but I think more importantly organized according to the golden ratio, a notion of creating a sense of perfect proportion.
It has the royal patrons, the royal French king and Blanche of Castile help patron this as indicated by the rose window. With a lot more light coming in, the audience felt that they were in enlightened state. Breaks with the tradition because flying buttresses and the pointed arches allowed them to build more vertical than ever.
So, why do we put these works side by side? What are the similarities? First is light. They both use light to emphasize the religious meaning. Light makes this heaven-like space for both works. Both works are related to Christianity. Chartres Cathedral serves as pilgrimage site for Christians, and Calling of St. Matthew portrays a biblical scene. Also, they are both breaking away from tradition. Chartres Cathedral breaks away from Romanesque buildings because it uses innovative technologies that allow it to be taller and have many windows. In Calling of St. Matthew, Caravaggio introduces a new way of using light into painting. We even call this technique Caravaggian lighting.
Created using Powtoon.